जब नेगोशिएशन चल रहा था तब नेगोशिएशन आगे बढ़ नहीं पा रहा था, और फिर मुतवक्किल आते हैं और बोलते हैं कि यहाँ पर ब्लडशेड नहीं होना चाहिए, और इसीलिए वो पाकिस्तानियों को बोलते हैं कि तुम्हारे डिमांड्स ड्रॉप करो और आगे बढ़ो, ऐसा कुछ दिखा है। तो एक्चुअल में क्या हुआ था मिस्टर अर्नी?
नहीं, उस the movie is true to what happened inside the aircraft. Outside the aircraft, whether in Delhi, in Nepal, or in Kandahar, is not on the basis of any inside information. So, mujhe bhi, they carried me also on the shoulder, along with my suitcase and my satellite phone. But when I finally kept on telling them, look, I am not a hostage, I went for negotiation. तब से नीचे तो गिरा दिया मुझे, and they went off, some of them.
मिस्टर रानी, आपको इस समय के दौरान जब आप कंधार में थे और ये सब नेगोशिएशन चल रहा था, आई एम श्योर कभी कभी टेंस भी हुआ होगा सिचुएशन, तो आपको कभी अपनी जान या अपनी जो लोग आए हुए थे इन लोगों की जान के ऊपर खतरे के बारे में ऐसा कभी एहसास आया उस समय?
नहीं, there was no khatra. The only khatra was in case what happens if the negotiations fail. Then what do we do? There are two things. One is, of course, coming back to India, we would probably have to run away because we can't come back to India after that. But there was more concern because we didn't know what the hotheads in the Taliban could have done. They had done about a year prior to that. The Taliban had killed 7 Iranian diplomats, not recognized their diplomatic thing, and entered the Iranian consulate in Mazar-e-Sharif and killed them. So somebody brought it up. I don't remember who brought it up. And for about half an hour, 45 minutes, all of us were agitated, and everybody was smoking more cigarettes than they should.
सौरभ, आपने वो सीरीज देखी क्या? IC814 पे नेटफ्लिक्स की सीरीज आई हुई है।
अरे मतलब हम सीरीज क्यों देखेंगे, हमने तो अंदर की कहानी पता है।
हाँ, सही बात। तो वैसे ये हुआ, बात ये है कि ख्याति और सौरभ, मैं आपको बता देता हूँ कि मैंने तो देखी नहीं वो सीरीज। तो मेरा एक अजीज मित्र है श्रीनी, वो जरूर सुनेगा ये एपिसोड। तो उसने मुझे, वो वैसे फोन करता नहीं है, बहुत बिजी आदमी है, पर उसने फोन उठाया, उसने बोला यार तुम तो मिस्टर आर्नी के साथ काम करते हो यार, और मैंने ये सीरीज देखी, उसमें ये सब होता है, तो तुमको पता है क्या ये सब, तुमने एपिसोड किया है क्या? बोला यार हम लोगों ने तो एक्चुअली मिस्टर आर्नी के साथ एक एपिसोड किया है बहुत पहले, लेकिन फिर मैंने सोचा उसमें होगा IC814 की बात, लेकिन फिर पता पड़ा हम लोगों ने IC814 के बारे में बात ही नहीं की थी। तो हम लोगों ने अफगानिस्तान और भारत के रिश्तों के बारे में बात की थी। फिर एक मिस्टर विक्रम सूद के साथ भी एपिसोड किया था कि किस तरीके से भारत की इंटेलिजेंस एजेंसीज काम करती है, लेकिन हम लोगों ने इस वाक्य पर बात ही नहीं की थी। तो इस त्रुटि को मतलब पूरा करना तो बनता ही है, क्यों ख्याति?
हाँ बिल्कुल भी। और मतलब मुझे ना बचपन से वैसे जासूसी कहानियां और जैसे कमांडो वगैरह की स्टोरीज पढ़ने में बड़ा मजा आता था। मतलब रियल लाइफ वाली जो होती थी ना, जो एंटेबे एयरपोर्ट की हाईजैकिंग और वो सब टाइप की, तो मैंने कभी सोचा नहीं था लेकिन कि मैं कभी रियल लाइफ कोई स्पाई मास्टर से मिलने का मौका मिलेगा और बात करने का मौका मिलेगा। तो मैं तो बहुत खुश हूँ आज।
हाँ, तो एक्चुअली
पर आर्नी जी जो है वो सारा ग्लैमर निकाल देते हैं जासूसी चीजों का, जितना भी आपको बाहर से लगता है ना।
सच्चाई क्या होती है वो पता पड़ेगा हमको। हाँ, बिल्कुल। तो मिस्टर आर्नी, बहुत बहुत स्वागत है आपका। वैसे हम लोग फॉर्मली इंट्रोड्यूस करवा देते हैं कि मिस्टर आर्नी स्पेशल सेक्रेटरी थे कैबिनेट सेक्रेटरीट में, जो कि कोड नेम है। एक्चुअली वो R&AW में ही रिटायर्ड एज द नंबर 2 एट R&AW, और उन्होंने पाकिस्तान अफगानिस्तान डेस्क पर बहुत साल बिताए हैं, पाकिस्तान में रह भी चुके हैं असाइनमेंट्स पर, और अभी तक्षशिला इंस्टीट्यूशन में पिछले 10 साल से हम लोग कुछ कुछ काम करते रहते हैं, नए डॉक्यूमेंट्स लिखते हैं पाकिस्तान अफगानिस्तान रिलेटेड रिश्तों विषयों पर। तो बहुत बहुत स्वागत है आपका एक बार फिर पुलियाबाजी पे मिस्टर आर्नी।
धन्यवाद।
सो मिस्टर आर्नी, हम लोग सबसे शुरुआत से शुरू करते हैं। हम लोगों को जानना था एक्चुअल कहानी क्या है। वो जो दिखाया है वो तो दिखाया है, पर हम लोगों को आपसे जानना था कि क्या हुआ। तो सबसे पहले आप ये बताइए कि आप इस कहानी से कब जुड़े, आप क्या कर रहे थे, ये बताइए हमें।
Just jump when the hijack happened.
या
तो 4:55 या 4:30, 4:30 और 5 के बीच में हम we heard about it. I'll tell you the funny bit, then you can probably say. I was sitting in my room. We can't compete with TV news.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not our line.
Yeah.
In any case, उस वक्त the TV news wasn't so. It was just starting. It was there. A lot of TV channels. Chakru, well, let's not mention name. Somebody a colleague of mine, rushed into my room and said, "Give me a pad and a pen." I said, "Yeah." What's happening? Where do you want to go? No. ऊपर साहब बड़े साहब बुला रहे हैं. They want me to go to Amritsar. And I asked him, क्या अमृतसर में क्या हो रहा है कुछ
So you were not, आपको पता नहीं था उस मोमेंट तक क्या
तब तक पता नहीं था. Next sentence उससे पता हुआ. He says, क्या, don't you know there's been a hijack? That's when we switched from watching some BBC serial to watching this TV channel. And noticed that it was just breaking at that point. Actually, Mr. Sahai, I think, got the first bit of information. One of the anchors who is related to him rang him up and said, "This is what we hear. What is your information?" And he had alerted other people. But 20 minutes में सबको पता हो गया, because immediately the crisis management group was activated, and the chief had to go. Mr. Dulat had to go for that, and so we knew that there's something brewing. We knew, most of us knew by that. 20 minutes में about 5-10 तक all of us knew.
राइट. सो आपको बोला गया था कि आपको अमृतसर जाना है, पर तब तक तो शायद फ्लाइट निकल चुकी थी, और जब डिसाइड हुआ
नहीं, मुझे नहीं, the other gentleman, उनको बोला था that look, since he had come on tour, it was his jurisdiction. He was coming from Saurabh's hometown, and he was told that look, we knew nothing. We didn't know any demand. We just knew that is going. He was told, go along with the aircraft up to Amritsar. Go along with the ARC aircraft. By the time the aircraft reached Amritsar, that plane had already departed for
लाहौर.
Yeah.
तब तक पता चल गया था कि अफगानिस्तान से लोग इन्वॉल्व हैं?
नहीं.
राइट. तो सिर्फ ये पता था कि हाईजैक हुआ है. किसने किया ये तो क्लियर नहीं था.
नाम भी पता नहीं था. 5 नाम बाद में आए, 5 नाम.
राइट. क्योंकि तब तक तो ये भी हो सकता था कि शायद कोई कश्मीर के टेररिस्ट होंगे, ये वो सबसे पहले तो आदमी वही सोचता है. राइट.
That was the first call. Terrorist Kashmir kuch, and we knew hostage. This thing. There was some guessing going on. People said Masood Azhar. That name came out fairly early.
Early. Okay.
Yeah.
और शायद इसलिए क्योंकि कई बार अटेम्प्ट्स हो चुके थे उसे निकलवाने के लिए. उससे पहले भी
2-3 बार तो there were attempts. एक बार तो I think they Kot Lakhpat, what jail is that in Jammu? There was an attempt to drill a tunnel. Second, ये एक बार वो हुआ. दूसरी बार वो उमर शेख आया हुआ था, and he had kidnapped 4-5 of those terrorists, 4-5 foreign tourists, and attempted to ransom
him out.
Yeah.
तो आपको पता चला कि ये हाईजैक हुआ है, तो आपके ऑफिस में मतलब इमीडिएट रिएक्शंस क्या थे? आपको क्या इमीडिएट लगा कि व्हाट वर द थिंग्स जो आप इनिशियली करने लगे कि हाउ डू आई?
You can say this. Since it was around 5:10, first thing I had to do, because ये तो 6 बजे सब निकल जाते हैं दफ्तर से. 6 बजे क्या? 6 बजे is the official closing, but 5:45 they will all go. So I had to tell my unit the Pakistan unit. Nobody is going home. And that was also, in a way, we had an established drill. If nobody goes home, that we ensure that they get some. This was before Swiggy and all that. We would send out a car and get some food for whoever was staying. And next day, if they went back, the taxi fare charges used to go home was reimbursed. So it wasn't. So then the next thing was to draw up a charter of, a list of people who will stay. The rest can go. Well, that was given to somebody in there, and they drew up a list of 10 people or 20 people, 2 drivers, 2-3 drivers, 2-3 peon type of people, so that they could go get the food and stamp, open envelopes, that sort of thing. And the section officer, who is the most crucial, integral part of any government functioning, any department, any branch functioning, because he knows where the files are kept, he knows where the keys are kept, he knows all that. So he was, both the section officers were asked to stay back.
आर्नी जी, आपके ऊपर भी लोग वैसे नजर रखते हैं, जैसे पेंटागन के आसपास के पिज्जा जगहों पे लोग नजर रखते हैं कि अगर ज्यादा पिज्जा ऑर्डर हो रहे हैं तो पेंटागन कोई क्राइसिस हैंडल कर रहा है। तो आपके भी टेक अवेज के ऊपर में कि अगर यहाँ से टेक अवे खूब आ रहा है सेंट्रल सेक्रेटेरिएट में, तो कुछ तो R&AW का क्राइसिस मैनेजमेंट बैठा हुआ है।
There are so many government offices. In any case, our people would go to Jangpura and pick up food, not from pizza. Okay.
ठीक,
ऑलराइट। तो फिर ये जब हुआ तो पता पड़ गया आपको, अब तो अमृतसर से भी चली गई है फ्लाइट। तब उस मोमेंट आपको क्या लग रहा था कि लाहौर में लैंड होगी या नहीं? आपका क्या असेसमेंट था कि लाहौर में, बिकॉज तब जब मुशर्रफ की गवर्नमेंट आ गई थी, तो आपका असेसमेंट क्या था? क्योंकि आप तो पाकिस्तान डेस्क देख रहे थे, तो आपको पूछा गया होगा कि आपको क्या लगता है।
We all knew. वो क्वेश्चन सवाल पूछने के लिए जरूरी नहीं, because we knew immediately that they will be going to Pakistan. We thought that the hijack will terminate in Pakistan.
तो
वो आगे वाला लेग जो है वो ज्यादा सरप्राइजिंग था कि लाहौर से आगे चला गया।
Exactly. That was surprising.
हाँ, ऐसा क्यों हुआ मिस्टर आर्नी? पर उन्होंने लाहौर में ही क्यों इसे खत्म नहीं होने दिया? आपको क्या लगता है? अब 20 साल हो गए, अब हमें क्या पता पड़ता है इसके बारे में?
Guess work is उसके पहले I think there was that hijack where Mr. Jaishankar's father was on the aircraft. K. Subramaniam.
That was 1984 शायद।
85. That did not terminate in this thing, but there was a lot of controversy after that. It was weapons were given in Lahore, so there was a lot of focus on Pakistan. But all these Hashim Qureshi hijack terminated in Lahore, and all these things, I'm pretty sure that they would. Well, if you piece it together, you will realize that there was no question of that Pakistan would be reticent in terminating the hijack on their soil.
मतलब क्योंकि ये नई सरकार थी वहां पे, तो उनकी इज्जत का फालूदा हो जाएगा कि देखो यहाँ पर पाकिस्तान फिर से एक और हाईजैक कर रहा है, तो शायद इसीलिए उन्होंने अलाउ नहीं किया। ऐसा कह सकते हैं?
ऐसा कह सकते हैं। Then also they had 2-3 things had happened before that. नहीं, उससे पहले ये Kargil had happened only 3-4 months before the hijack. So that was another thing. Musharraf had launched a coup and taken over. So the focus was on Musharraf. They were not, it was the wrong time. I still don't understand why Masood Azhar was so important at that point in time to go to such extents.
पर अब तो हम लोग कह सकते हैं ना मिस्टर आर्नी की वो इम्पोर्टेंट था, क्योंकि फिर उसके बाद जो 2001 अटैक्स हुए पार्लियामेंट में, और फिर कई सारी चीजों में जैश ए मोहम्मद का तो हाथ था ही, तो उसको छुड़ाना उनके लिए तो बहुत फायदेमंद हो गया।
Yes, but उस वक्त there was no Jaish e Mohammed when he was part of the Hizbul Mujahideen, Harkatul Hizbul Mujahideen, Hizbul Ansar. So that was the main thing. And remember, those 2002, there was 2 attempted assassinations of of Musharraf, 2001 or 2002.
Hmm.
Twice there was an attempt on Musharraf's life, and both times the Jaish-e-Mohammed was involved.
Right. And that Lal Masjid attacks वो भी
That
हुआ
also.
था.
But that was more of a different, that was of a different nature.
Hmm.
This was a direct attack by the Jaish on Musharraf. So it looks like as if there was some split in the army and there was a faction which wanted to bring him out.
ठीक
एक
है.
और interesting चीज उसी वक्त हुआ. That interesting cheese not very many people have really focused much on. There was a rocket attack on Musharraf's house when he was staying in army, when he was staying there in the army house. That is the chief's house, not in the president's house. It was from the hills behind. A rocket was fired. Of course, it was more of a dud than that. It was not a serious attack, but a rocket. 1 or 2 rockets were fired at that place. When they went and did a search of that area, they found a Pajero car there with a fake number plate, and the number plate, the fake numbers were that of the DGISI. So that message, I still, even after 20 years, I don't understand. What was that message? What was the reason?
Yeah. तो पाकिस्तान की पहेली. तो हाँ ठीक है.
तो मतलब मैं थोड़ा सिंपली, मतलब मुझे इतना सब नहीं पता है, तो मैं जो समझ पा रही हूँ, क्या ये हम ऐसा समझ सकते हैं कि ISI और उनकी फॉर्मल आर्मी के बीच में भी शायद पूरी तरह से एक तालमेल नहीं था, या उसमें एक सेक्शन था ISI का जो इंडिपेंडेंटली या अपने शायद पूरी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के साथ पूरी तरह तालमेल ना रखते हुए अपना ही कुछ प्रोजेक्ट करने चले गए थे टाइप का सिचुएशन था क्या ऐसा ही?
Very possible. There must have been a split in the army and in the ISI. Who did what? मुझे अभी तक आज तक पता नहीं.
ठीक बात है.
तो आगे बढ़ते हैं. तो उसके बाद लाहौर से वापस, जैसे कि लोगों ने देखा ही होगा, फ्लाइट दुबई जाती है और फिर दुबई से सीधे काबुल जाना रहता है, लेकिन काबुल की बजाय कंधार चली जाती है. तो इस वक्त आप क्या कर रहे थे? ये 24 तारीख की बात होगी शायद, 24 या 25 तारीख.
24 रात को मैंने रात का ड्यूटी, since it was a serious hijack, the levels of the control room, what I mentioned to you, keeping my staff was raised. Earlier as Joint Secretary, I was not expected to stay there. There was some poor chap, some undersecretary who was asked to stay throughout the night. But because it was a serious occurrence, the level was raised. So the control room was kept in the staff office on the 11th floor, close to the chief's office. And it was raised to the level of additional secretary, Raat pe. So my boss, well, not really my boss, one of the additional secretaries and I were asked to spend the night at the airport, in that control room. And wahan kya kar rahe control room mein? Ye control room, you think it's a fancy, it's not. It was just a room which belonged to the staff officer of the chief, because he had ISD, and us zamane mein ISD and STD were all rare commodities. So we sat in that room, which kept the TVs on. We brought in extra TVs to monitor all channels. And since there was only one sofa set, the additional secretary, using his rank prerogative, went to sleep there. I was sitting in a chair, obviously. That was that's a flippant side of it. But yes, throughout the night, there were some messages coming in from our stations all over, each one of them giving his or her opinion about events more than intelligence information. Some of our some friendly services were also passing on information, and that a copy of that thing would also come to us. Nothing concrete, we did not know, but we suspected by the first night that it was Masood Azhar, and that there were 5 people. Wo naam bhi aa gaya tha. The naam meaning the fake names, that is Burger and Doctor and
Bhola Shankar
Bhola
Chief. Yeah.
Shankar, which was all made into a controversy. We knew those names. And then, of course, the important thing was, of course, Mr. Dulat has spoken about it. Others have written about it. ये manifest हमारा पास पहुंच गया. That is,
अच्छा,
the people who were in the aircraft.
एयरक्राफ्ट.
So, that manifest, then we could trace who are the innocents and who are the suspects or whatever. It is divided into 2-3 categories. And 4-5 नाम तो हमारा पास मिला था. We passed it to our officer in Mumbai. Because there were 5 passports. They were using passports, though Indians were using. 5 of these people had Indian passports, and that was shown as the document for their booking. This thing, and those 5 passports, the names were where the passports were obtained in Bombay. So हमने Bombay office को alert किया. And that subsequent investigation, very quickly we got to know the real names. Or at least let me say the names under which they were traveling.
Right.
और ये भी वो हेमंत करकरे जी जो बाद में 2611 में भी बहुत फेमस बनते हैं.
Our officer at that time was Hemant Karkare in Bombay.
तो आर्नी जी उस समय तक लेकिन आप लोग एकदम ऐसे रिपेंट कर रहे थे, ये अमृतसर में हमने क्यों नहीं एयरक्राफ्ट के टायर फाड़ दिए या उसको इमोबिलाइज कर दिया किसी तरह से? वाज देयर लाइक दिस कि एक चांस मिस हो गया और अब हाथ से चिड़िया निकल गई?
बिल्कुल, there was that feeling, but it was those type of decisions were above my pay grade, So even Mr. Dulat couldn't say. It had to be. It was a political decision to stop that aircraft, and no decision was given. That's simple. I know that the airport manager in Amritsar had been repeatedly trying to seek instructions and did nothing came.
और शायद एक और इंटरव्यू है जिसमें मिस्टर आर्नी और मिस्टर दुलत थे वीर सांघवी के साथ. तो उसमें भी मिस्टर दुलत बताते हैं कि क्राइसिस मैनेजमेंट ग्रुप का गठन हुआ था और उसमें कोई भी ये डिसीजन नहीं ले रहा था फाइनली कि वहां जाके अटैक करना है. और अमृतसर में वहां के पंजाब पुलिस कमांडोज भी इंतजार कर रहे थे. तो शायद वो पार्ट जो सीरीज में दिखाया गया है वो सच है कि एक डिसीजन नहीं लिया गया और जब तक ये डिसाइड किया गया वो लोग निकल चुके थे अमृतसर से. तो वो हुआ. उसके बाद तो ये
सो मे बी आदमी जी ऐसा है क्या, जैसा हमारे यहाँ पे लोग बोलते हैं कि परमिशन मांगने की जगह सॉरी मांग लिया करो, तो वहां पे जो शायद लोकल लोग थे उनको करने के बाद बोलना चाहिए था सॉरी अगर गलती हो गई, पर उनको लग रहा था जो डिसीजन लोअर लेवल पे वो ठीक डिसीजन था ना कि करना चाहिए इंटरव्यू.
What, to stop it? नहीं. There was an attempt that apparently मुझे अभी even I got to know very fairly recently, not at that time, that the aircraft kept on moving tarmac pe. It was not parked in one place, so it was difficult to position a Bowser. And you couldn't. Some people say commandos should have been asked to be in position, but how do you send people? You couldn't. No vehicle was allowed to approach the aircraft. So it was about the pay grade of the station manager. When he had been told that if you don't allow us to fly out, we're going to throw bodies out, there's nothing he could do. Nobody wanted to take a decision.
Got it.
और एक मुश्किल डिसीजन है ये, कोई ऐसे स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड नहीं है ना कि हम अंदर घुस गए और सब सही होगा. अगर आप ये भी, क्योंकि अगर वो ऑपरेशन किया भी जाता तो अगर उसमें भी लोगों की जानें जा सकती थी और उस पे यही सवाल उठता था कि आपको किसने बोला था कि इतनी जल्दी चले जाओ, तुम्हें और टाइम मांगना चाहिए था, राइट? दैट कैन बी द अदर साइड ऑफ इट. एंड इनफैक्ट मैं एक्चुअली एक इंटरव्यू सुन रही थी जिसमें जो उस समय के जो डीजी थे उन्होंने एग्जैक्टली यही पॉइंट बोला कि हम उनको फ्यूल, उनके पास फ्यूल नहीं था तो हम फ्यूल ना देके वो बस एग्जैक्टली वो टाइम खरीदने की कोशिश कर रहे थे ताकि हम थोड़ा सोच समझ के वो काम कर पाए. और वो बोलते कि कोई भी देश की पुलिस, तुम्हें कुछ पता नहीं अंदर क्या सिचुएशन है, तुम ऐसे ही कोई अपने देश के लोगों के ऊपर बंद
बिल्कुल
एयरक्राफ्ट के अंदर ऐसे घुस जाना भी कोई बहुत इंटेलिजेंट काम नहीं होगा ऐसे, मतलब वो काफी स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड थे कि उनके पास जो सिचुएशन थी उसमें वो इतनी जल्दबाजी में कुछ करने का कोई ज्यादा पॉइंट नहीं था, ऐसा उनका पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू था।
Yeah, he did not know the instructions on on hostage crisis is to keep talking to them and keep slowing down the pace, keep postponing or on delaying matters. Us waqt there was no question of even doing that. The people on the aircraft, the hostages were the hijackers were only talking to the ATC. The ATC was trying to say that, look, I have no Bowser, I can't, I need to get the Bowser in place, I need to fill your thing. For that, you have to stop. All that negative talks were going on. It was slowing down it, but they were not prepared to listen. ये क्या problem था वहाँ, this thing, communication. मुझे याद है that one of the mobiles had just come in at that point. And one of the mobiles was belonged to an officer. The only mobile which was available belonged to an officer who got it as part of his dowry. He got married to some so they gave him a mobile phone, and it was what must have been about 10 rupees in a minute or something. It was only for show. He didn't use it, but that was an emergency, and then the airport people were using that to communicate to Delhi. So he knew about what was happening, and he told me also part of the story that the station manager, the airport station manager was desperately trying to get a permission, get instructions, and nothing came to nothing at all.
ये तो बहुत दिलचस्प है। तो ठीक है, फिर आगे बढ़ते हैं। तो फिर दुबई में जाती है फ्लाइट और फिर कंधार में लैंड होती है। तो इस वक्त मतलब 25 तारीख की सुबह हो गई थी शायद, तो तब डिसाइड हो गया था फिर कि कंधार में ही रहेगी फ्लाइट और आप लोगों को नेगोशिएशन के लिए जाना है। ये आपको कब पता पड़ा कि आपको जाना है?
26th morning
ओके।
मुझे I got to know surprising turn of events. I mean, it was very, very strange. I think I have told you this couple of times also. Because I was on duty at night, I used to go to office a little late, go back for home, go have breakfast and have a bath and get ready. And I reached office, which was for me a little late. The government, you know how it functions, but I used to be on time. And then I was told that when I reached the portico, I got down from my car, I was told by the people, "Saab yaad kar rahe hain." So I said, "Which Saab?" Said, "Bade Saab." And looked upstairs. I said, "There must be some emergency. Kuch hua hai, let me rush there." So I gave my briefcase to my driver and told him, "Kamre mein pahuncha do baad mein." And I rushed upstairs, took a pen and a piece of paper and rushed upstairs. And there was all the senior officers, I mean, the people who were there, should be there, were there. One additional secretary, one special secretary, two joint secretaries, and Mr. Dulat. They were seated around Mr. Dulat's table. And we're discussing that the aircraft has landed, and now that the government is going to send a team to negotiate. मुझे तब तक कुछ पता नहीं था. Then I heard somebody say the flight is got confirmation. The flight will take off at 10:30. That is our flight. No, at 11:30. So Mr. Sahai turned to me and said, "Suitcase kahan hai? Tayar ho gaya kya? Tayar hai kya?" So I told him, "Kya sir? मुझे कुछ पता नहीं." Then they realized, the people, that they had alerted Mr. Sahai, but they had forgotten to tell me. So I had to rush home, collect a suitcase. When I reached home, I realized Kanchana was not at home because she had gone out somewhere. And again, as I said, no mobile, I didn't know. So I opened the house, collected my suitcase, collected some small things in a suitcase. And how do I tell Kanchana? So I wrote a note. and put it on the fridge, as we all do. And then put another note on the front door and said, I've left something on the fridge door. Please please see. And on that note on top of the fridge, I had said, when I reach Kandahar, I will call you.
Okay. That's all. Okay.
That's all. I told her I'm off. I'm pushed off. Please tell my mother. And I'm saying, we're still in my adventure. There's nothing. We're not scared. So wahan pauncha. Mr. Sahai was waiting for me downstairs. So I got into his car and we proceeded to go to the airport. And we had to go via Racecourse Road. And Racecourse Road, we were stuck for half an hour because there were huge crowds there. So eventually Mr. Sahai got down and told the demonstrators, look, we are going to get your boys back. Please let us through. So then they parted.
वो जो उनके पेरेंट बेसिकली उनकी फैमिली मेंबर्स जो सब प्रोटेस्ट कर रहे थे हॉस्टेजेस के बिल्कुल.
And then we went to the airport and वहां तक पहुंचा. Within 15-20 minutes, the technical area got into the aircraft. My first duty there was to count the number of people in the aircraft. Because we were traveling, none of us we had passport with no visas required. Nobody knew how many were to come, how many were to go. So I counted, there was 52 people on the aircraft. So that was this thing. And then, of course, we took off. We took off. We must have taken off at about 1:30. The last to arrive was Vivek Karju because he was to get instructions from Jaswant Singh, and he was only once he got the instructions, he came and joined us.
आप लोगों को ऐसा नहीं लगा कि आप 52 लोग जाके हॉस्टेजेस की संख्या बढ़ा देंगे?
मुझे 52 ये याद रखना है because some clever man who was doing all this had decided that first, let's see this, that Air India had its own priorities. There was Air India crew on the aircraft, relief crew, because there was that other aircraft was there. So relief crew for them, for that aircraft, which means 5-6 air hostesses and pilot and etc. And then flight engineer, whatever, I don't know what the technical words are, but technical staff to check whether the other aircraft is
flight worthy and all
that. So that must have been, the Air India component itself must have been about 20 people. That is on our aircraft, on the relief crew and the Bhisma Agni. Then there was a component of medical staff. So, kya kiya, the government's typical sarkari work, good work, but this is the way we work, the sarkar works. They had gone to Safdarjung Hospital and pulled out some doctors, probably staff who were doctors and nurses who were living in the staff quarters there. Usme, somebody had said, okay, so there are 163 passengers on that aircraft. The 163 must be 50% must be women and children, 50% must be males, so 50% doctors had to be women. So we had, in this 52, we had high proportion of women because there were nurses, there were doctors, there was air hostesses. That was the thing. So we were mostly, that was the component. There was no commandos, nothing like that. I know there have been some allegations that no commandos, you know.
ठीक है. कमांडो होंगे या नहीं होंगे क्या पता. ओके, पर तो फिर वहां पर जब आप लोग गए तो आपकी नेगोशिएटिंग टीम में 5 लोग थे और आप ये सैटेलाइट फोन लेकर गए थे, वो क्यों लेकर गए थे आप?
There was no communication there, and satellite phone, though we had that old Immersat satellite phone, which I probably, you know, as they say, the kingdom of blind men, the man with one eye is king. I was the only one who knew how to operate that satellite phone, Immersat. It's like your laptop which you have in front of you. You adjust the antenna is on the lid, and you focus that towards the satellite. and they'll find some lights coming up, when a line coming up, and when it's the brightest, you press the button and lock it on that. So then you can communicate. Uske alawa, we did have some Immersat, Iridium sat phones, those days Iridium. But the problem with the Iridium is that the antenna is it keeps it's on top of the telephone, and that keeps falling all over the place. You got to hold it like this, very uncomfortable.
Got it.
तो इस वक्त जब 26 को मतलब आप शायद 26 की शाम को पहुंचे होंगे
हाँ,
वहां
4
पर,
बजे के आसपास,
हाँ,
4 बजे।
तो फिर नेगोशिएशंस इमीडिएटली स्टार्ट हो गए कि उस दिन कुछ नहीं हुआ, आप लोग गए, फिर अगले दिन स्टार्ट हुआ, कैसे?
No, there was some negotiation, some attempt at contact with the hijackers, tell them that we have arrived and get their list of demands and all that. Well, next day actually, but tell them that we have arrived and that we will just come in and we will be talking to you tomorrow morning and things like that. I think about half an hour, 45 minutes, we must have spoken to them.
तो इस वक्त मिस्टर आर्नी, आपको आइडिया था कि किस तरीके से नेगोशिएशन होगा, कि मतलब जैसे आप लोग उनसे बात तो कर ही नहीं पाए डायरेक्टली ना, आप फोन पर ही बात कर रहे थे एटीसी के थ्रू, तो ये आपको आइडिया था कि ऐसे होगा, कि आप सोच रहे थे इट विल बी फेस टू फेस, कि क्या आपके मन में क्या चल रहा था तब?
कुछ नहीं चला, till that time I never realized, I never give that any thought. I thought that we may have to go up to on the tarmac. These people will sit down, the aircraft will come down the steps and we will go halfway and sit and talk. But I didn't know that we will not even see them. There was no face-to-face negotiation.
सब कुछ ATC के through?
No, सब कुछ, हाँ, ATC के through. There was a wireless, the microphone and
walkie-talkie.
Not a walkie-talkie. It was more of a microphone stand. On-off. Over and out sort of a thing, that thing.
Okay.
ATC जो channel उसके ऊपर कर रहे थे, right?
ATC, through the ATC, of course, through the ATC, because they had the communication to the aircraft, but patched to the ATC.
Patched to you. तो आप लोग डायरेक्टली बात कर पा रहे थे, ऐसा नहीं था कि कोई आपकी बात रिले कर रहा है?
नहीं. There was no other in between mediator. Neither the Afghan side nor anybody else was involved.
तो उस सीरीज में, हाँ बोलिए।
हाँ, आर्नी जी बताइए ना कि ये नेगोशिएशन एग्जैक्टली, क्योंकि थोड़ा सा जैसे शायद प्रणय भी इसे पूछना चाहते थे, सीरीज में थोड़ा ऐसा लगा कि उन्होंने ऐसा पोर्ट्रेयल दिखाया है कि काफी फ्लिपेंट थे हमारे नेगोशिएटर्स, ऐसा हमें सेंस आया, बट ऑनेस्टली हम में से किसी को भी पता नहीं कि इस प्रकार की सिचुएशन में कैसे होता है नेगोशिएशन, तो थोड़ा सा बताइए कि उस समय कैसे हो रहा था।
Mr. Dowell was doing the talking. If you know him, he is not a flippant character at all. He was doing the talking. There was nothing, no attempt at flippancy. We were trying to ascertain what exactly they wanted and whether there's room for bargain. I think we sized up on that fairly early, that their list of demands are a ballpark demands. We'll have to whittle them down. It's a process of time. And I think that way Mr. Dowell was fairly successful. We kept it going for 3 days, the negotiation, and beat them down.
हाँ, पहले तो उनकी क्या क्या डिमांड थी, $250 मिलियन और कितने ही लोगों को छुड़ाना है वगैरह वगैरह, और एंड में तो वो सब नहीं हुआ। लेकिन उसमें मिस्टर आर्नी एक चीज था, आप जैसे कह रहे थे कि ज्यादातर ये नेगोशिएशन रात को हो रही थी, सुबह नहीं हो रही थी, तो ऐसा कुछ कारण था, इसका रीजन था कि ऐसे ही सुबह और कुछ काम हो रहा?
It just became like that. We was, I think, on most days we started talking at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. After and then carried on splits, and they would break off and we would break off, and it went on till about 8 o'clock at night.
तो आपको जब नेगोशिएशन कर रहे थे, आपको लग रहा था ये बहुत ही ट्रेन्ड लोग हैं या अनाड़ी है, एमेचर्स, कि आपको लग रहा था कि ये क्या पता ISI के एक्चुअली लोग हो सकते हैं, ऐसा कुछ आइडिया है आपको?
Nothing. वो तो guesswork. It's all, if I say something, it'll be guessing. No, I didn't even look at that possibility of that. Maybe Mr. Dowell had some sense, but I didn't get any sense.
और इस वक्त जो आपके, जैसे आप क्योंकि अफगानिस्तान में पहुंचे थे उस टाइम पे, तो भारत के राजनीतिक रिश्ते भी नहीं थे तालिबान के साथ, तो आपको, आप कम्युनिकेट कैसे कर रहे थे अफगानिस्तान और तालिबान के साथ? तो आपको शायद एक कोई इंटरप्रेटर था, तो वो भी बताइए कौन था?
Syed Rahmatullah Hashmi was our interpreter. He must have been what 25 young man. He spoke fairly fluent English, and when I in one of his moments when he was not busy with anything, I was talking to him, and he told me that he had learned his English in Quetta. He was a refugee, so he had learned it in the refugee camps, and got better at it. He had but he was definitely, you give him an extra moment, you give him some leeway, he will criticize India, and that typical mindset of a man brainwashed in Pakistan, not brainwashed, but brought up in Pakistan, and that was the way he looked at India. He was this thing.
ठीक है। तो ये और आपने ये बात नहीं बताई कि जैसे आपने दूसरे इंटरव्यूज में बताया था कि ये रमजान का वक्त था वहां पे, तो आप लोगों को शायद खाना वाना भी नहीं मिल रहा होगा।
कुछ नहीं मिला हमको खाना रात पे, except for a cup of tea and sort of biscuits that was available. That was available in the morning also for us. ये एक आदमी हमारा साथ, हमारे ऋषि के लिए, he was with us, चौकीदार, whatever you call him. We were put up in an old, later we got to know that it was an old barracks which was built by the Americans prior to the Soviet invasion. So must have been built in the 50s. Two of these things. One we had occupied. There were 7 rooms, yes, 21 beds and 1 bathroom, just 1 bathroom there. And 21 of the males came and stayed with us. That is the Air India pilots and the relief crew and us. We are all there. 21 of us stayed there. Charpoys, 3 charpoys to each room. But you can't blame them for mattresses and blankets, and a Bukhari going on throughout the night because it was cold, winter. No food at all for the first night. We never even thought of loading up on food in Delhi before flying out. We never knew how long it would take. Maybe there was food in the aircraft, in the aircraft, the women and the air hostesses and all those type of people stayed on there. 21 with us, the balance on the aircraft. So they must have slept on the ground, and I think maybe they had it, in retrospect, they probably had it much more comfortable because they had 4 or 5 toilets, and there's some food and all that there in the aircraft. Yeah.
ठीक है। तो आगे जो, जैसे एक सीरीज में जो फॉरेन मिनिस्टर थे तालिबान के, मुतवक्किल, उनका काफी पॉजिटिव स्पिन दिया है सीरीज में कि जब नेगोशिएशन चल रहा था तब नेगोशिएशन आगे बढ़ नहीं पा रहा था, और फिर मुतवक्किल आते हैं और बोलते हैं कि यहाँ पर ब्लडशेड नहीं होना चाहिए, और इसीलिए वो पाकिस्तानियों को बोलते हैं कि तुम्हारे डिमांड्स ड्रॉप करो और आगे बढ़ो, ऐसा कुछ दिखा है। तो एक्चुअल में क्या हुआ था मिस्टर अर्नी?
नहीं, the movie is true to what happened inside the aircraft. Outside the aircraft, whether in Delhi, in Nepal, or in Kandahar, is not on the basis of any inside information. So Mr. Muttawakil was only there to keep in touch with us. He was not negotiating with the hostages. I don't even think he just used to come and meet us once or twice a day, ensure that we are looked after. And we did ask him if the Taliban can help bring the hostage crisis to an end. And he made it very clear that he couldn't do anything. Limited role unka tha. There was nothing negative in it, and there was, of course, visibly some embarrassment on his face that he was in a situation where as a foreign minister he was party to a hijack or equivalent of that. There was one other interesting character who used to come and sit down outside our room. Not when I say outside a room, there was, the rooms had it was looking into a courtyard, and courtyard mein ek kursi pe, there was a man who used to come and sit down there with wooden leg, peg leg like this thing, and he would hobble across and sit down there. And only the second day I got to know from ATC people that he was the corps commander of Kandahar, a very powerful man, more powerful than Muttawakil in the Taliban hierarchy, because he was protecting Mullah Omar and protecting their interests. And I've forgotten his name, but he was a very important person. Obviously, when he was sitting there like that, I think he was there to ensure that nothing went wrong. So that was it. That he is there, that the troops in Kandahar are there under his command, and the people in the airport are under his command.
तो आर्नी जी, आपको लेकिन वहां पे ऐसा था क्या कि मतलब तालिबान की सिंपैथी तो जो टेररिस्ट थे उन्हीं के साथ थी कि भाई ये अपना काम करवा लें, वरना अगर वो चाहते तो वो बोल सकते थे कि ठीक है आप हाईजैक से जब बाहर निकलेंगे तो हम आपको अरेस्ट कर लेंगे, ऐसे तो उनकी कोई मंशा नहीं थी, राइट? उनकी सिंपैथीज तो हाईजैकर्स के साथ ही थी ना?
Divided, I will say. Muttawakil were probably embarrassed about the hijack, but there were other people like that Minister for Civil Aviation, who later became Mullah Omar's successor. Unhone, he knew Masood Azhar, without a doubt, because when Masood Azhar came down when he was released, these people hugged each other. But when I came back to Delhi, I did some homework on this gentleman and realized that dono Masood Azhar and the civil aviation minister had been disciples of Nizamuddin Shamzai, who was the head of the Deobandi Madrasa in Karachi, which is more or less the center of their, which is the one which gives them ideological support. Yes. Who had trained them, who was their guru.
Right. ठीक.
तो नेगोशिएशंस पर आते हैं, तो जैसे एक और बात दिखाई गई है कि फाइनली जब नेगोशिएशन की लिस्ट थोड़ी और पतली होती है तो उसमें एक ऑप्शन रहता है कि मसूद अजहर को तो रिलीज होना है, और उसके साथ आप लोग ऑप्शन देते हैं कि कोई और 4 लोग जा सकते हैं आपकी चॉइस के, या फिर वो लोग और कोई 2 लोगों को चूज कर सकते हैं आपकी चॉइस के. तो ये ऐसा क्यों ऑप्शन दिया गया, ये क्यों होता है ऐसा नेगोशिएशन?
बार्गेनिंग प्लॉय था. We knew that they wanted Masood Azhar, so we asked. It came down then. Well, original demand was for what, 32 or 31 people. The money demand was dropped very soon. I think first day itself it was dropped. It was not 200 million, $25 million. That was dropped. They wrapped the demands in a stone or something like that, and threw it out of the aircraft, which is little dramatic, because if they're in touch, if they're on walkie-talkie, they could have told us that. But before we established any contact, they threw it out. And I went and picked up with one other person, went and picked up that list of demands, and we opened it. It was on a piece of paper, Angrez mein likha tha, 31 or 32 people and $25 million. Usme we could remove quite a few of the names are useless. At the bottom of the list was Sajjad Afghani, for whom Masood Azhar may have had a lot of admiration. But Sajjad Afghani had died in Jammu jail, and they wanted his bones. We could have given that, as one of the things. I mean, you can take any bones and give it and pretend. Who's going to kind of know?
वो डीएनए टेस्ट तो नहीं करवाएंगे. पर ठीक है, तो ये फिर नेगोशिएशन हुआ. तो जब आपको पता पड़ा ये जरगर और उमर शेख मुल्ला क्या मसूद अजहर के साथ जाने वाले हैं। तो आपका क्या रिएक्शन था? ये तीनों लोग प्रॉब्लम हो सकते हैं आगे कि ठीक है, दिस इज व्हाट यू हैव टू लिव विद?
For me, there was no big conflict on Umar Sheikh because he was not an Indian national. Zargar, I had heard of quite often in the past. He was Al-Umar chief, yes, head of Al-Umar. And he was more of a criminal type than anything. He had been guilty of a lot of crimes and murders and stuff like that. So we knew it was a problem. We should never, at least in my mind, we were little, I had heard about this man, and this was one of those, this was the last in the list that we could have given. But at that point, we had no option. We had to, they were going to release 165 people. We had for 3 people, 2 of whom we had no contest about. One other, that was the thing.
और आपने ये भी कहा किसी इंटरव्यू में कि 29th तक आप लोगों को लगा था नेगोशिएशन हो जाने वाला है, लेकिन फिर वो लोगों ने बैक ट्रैक कर लिया। तो क्या मुद्दा था तब?
29th they had agreed only for the release of one, that is Masood Azhar.
अच्छा.
So we thought that we had a good deal, we had arrived at a good deal and went back. Next morning they retracted and said that's when the 2 or 4 formula came, either 2 of their choice or 4 of our choice. And I think 30th that came. 31st morning we had an agreement that 3 of them, 3 will be released. I think we got an agreement. Delhi also conveyed its acceptance and we told them after that just waiting.
मुझे यही लग रहा है कि इतना टेंस चीज है, लेकिन मिस्टर आर्नी R&AW में, इसीलिए वो इतनी कूलली बता पा रही है सब। नहीं तो अपने को तो बहुत ही डर लगेगा।
25 years, there is nothing. How many times can you relive it? It's over.
सही बात।
It was only I was worried only about my family, so I had spoken to them twice and told them. For them, it was some excitement also. My father has gone to Kandahar. That was it. Yeah.
मिस्टर आर्नी, आपको इस समय के दौरान जब आप कंधार में थे और ये सब नेगोशिएशन चल रहा था, आई एम श्योर कभी कभी टेंस भी हुआ होगा सिचुएशन, तो आपको कभी अपनी जान या अपनी जो लोग आए हुए थे इन लोगों की जान के ऊपर खतरे के बारे में ऐसा कभी एहसास आया उस समय?
No, there was no khatra. The only khatra was in case what happens if the negotiations fail. Then what do we do? There are 2 things. One is, of course, coming back to India, we would probably have to run away because we can't come back to India after that. But there was more concern because we didn't know what the hotheads in the Taliban could have done. There were definitely hotheads there. Akhtar Mansoor was the civil aviation minister. He was the head of Taliban after that. Later we knew that he had a considerable following in Kabul, in Kandahar. They had done about a year prior to that, the Taliban had killed 7 Iranian diplomats, not recognized their diplomatic thing, and entered the Iranian consulate in Mazar-e-Sharif and killed them. So somebody brought it up. I don't remember who brought it up. And for about half an hour, 45 minutes, all of us were agitated and everybody was smoking more cigarettes than they should. But that was it. Nothing more than that.
तो ये बात चल रही थी। उसके बाद एक और फ्लाइट आती है, वहां पर आएंगे। उससे पहले जब पता पड़ा आपको कि फिर फ्लाइट में जसवंत सिंह भी आने वाले हैं, तो तब एक इंटरेस्टिंग वाकया होता है Y2K से जुड़ा हुआ, तो वो बताइए। वैसे सौरभ Y2K क्या है, आप पहले ये बता दो, हमारे कई दर्शकों को पता भी नहीं होगा क्योंकि वो
पुरानी बात हुआ है।
हाँ। तो Y2K शॉर्ट हो गया ईयर 2000 का। तो वही क्या कहते हैं, सारे प्रोग्राम, कंप्यूटर प्रोग्राम्स में 2 डिजिट का ईयर होता था, राइट? तो 99 की जगह 99 होगा, 98 होगा, 1999 होगा। तो अब 2000 होने पर 00 जो है वो 1900 भी हो सकता है और 2000 भी। तो ये कंफ्यूजन बेसिकली। तो Y2K सिंपल बग था कि भाई फाइनल ईयर को आपने 2 डिजिट से रिप्रेजेंट किया हुआ है, और अब वो कि लोगों ने सोचा नहीं होगा जब ये कंप्यूटर प्रोग्राम्स बने कि भाई ये सदी बदलेगी भी और प्रोग्राम जिंदा रहेंगे, पर बहुत सारे प्रोग्राम जिंदा रह गए तब तक। तो ये Y2K का बग।
हाँ तो
But there was also the fear that if it shows 00, all the computers will crash.
हाँ हाँ हाँ, बड़ी, अरे बहुत लोगों ने वो मिलेनियल की न्यू ईयर ईव ऐसे बनाई थी कि दुनिया खत्म होने वाली है और ये सब कुछ। ये और इंडियन आईटी कंपनीज ने बहुत पैसा भी बनाया था
वैसा
उसमें।
बना।
हाँ
हाँ तो
ये
Y2K
मेन
कैसे,
पॉइंट था।
हाँ Y2K कैसे आ गया इस कहानी में भी Y2K का आता है, तो मिस्टर अर्नी वो बताइए ना।
Yeah, Air India wale ne, since I told you I was looking after the satellite phone, I got a message from, 2 calls came from stray calls. Nobody is going to call you. Suddenly your telephone starts ringing, you pick it up and say, the first thing was, Kandahar ATC, this is Air India Mumbai, or Indian Airlines Mumbai, those days. Is that a district? So I told them both times, I told them, look, please get off the line. This is not Kandahar ATC. So the third time the call came and this man said, please don't disconnect, sir. Who's speaking? So I said, this is the, we are here for the negotiations. This is the Indian negotiating team. So he told me that, please, sir, we need one. We have a VVIP aircraft. We have a VVIP passenger on an aircraft coming there, and we need some certifications. So we know who the VVIP is. He's trying to be secretive to us.
Yeah.
So I told him, yes, I know Mr. Jaswant Singh is coming. We are ready for him. Please tell him, and we will be there to receive him. We're making arrangements. So, no, sir, we need some certification. First certification, can you tell us if there are 3 certifications? I don't remember the last one. 2 I remember. Can you tell us whether Kandahar has night landing facilities? So I had seen a lot of, like Khyati, I had seen a lot of movies of all this aircraft coming in when there is no Entebbe particularly, no lights on the runway. Suddenly, some 20 jeeps which are parked switch on their lights and light up the runway. So I thought something like that. So I said, look, I have not seen any night landing here, no lights at night, lights at night. But I can ask our hosts to line up trucks on both sides with lights, if that helps. That fellow didn't know whether I was serious, I was joking. Yeah. So anyway, he went off. Said, next one, sir, can you please certify that Kandahar is Y2K free? I tell you, I used all the language that I could, and I told him, there is no computer in Kandahar, there is no computer in Afghanistan. How can you talk about Y2K here? And of course, this is more politely framed, but that was fine. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. That is the certification we wanted.
उसे अपना चेकलिस्ट पूरा करना था।
Y2K free.
ठीक है, तो फिर फाइनली वो दूसरी फ्लाइट भी लैंड हो जाती है, उसमें जसवंत सिंह थे और जो 3 टेररिस्ट थे वो भी उसी फ्लाइट में थे ना, मिस्टर अर्नी सिंह। तो वहां पर वो लोग आते हैं, फिर वो धीरे धीरे करके उतर रहे हैं और आपकी मुलाकात होती है उमर शेख के साथ, तो वो भी बताइए आप क्या होता है वहां पे।
First, this fellow Masood Azhar came, and there was a gap after Masood Azhar got down. The gap was because Masood Azhar was taken away in the civil aviation minister's vehicle. I told you they hugged each other, and they went off. Just as they were left, the azan, call for azan was given. So they went off. Nobody was there. It was only 6 or 7 of this escort motorcycle, this, since I'm a motorcycle freak, I saw those motorcycles. Really, it was a BMW motorcycle, must have been 25 years old, already there, or 30. Really, I wish I could have brought one of them. So that motorcycle was there with people wearing helmets and all that. Then Omar Sheikh came down, and Niche Pauncha at the bottom of the steps, and I was standing there. We were both standing together. I had my sat phone in one hand, a huge damn thing, and my bag, suitcase. I didn't want to leave it behind. So I was there. This fellow came down, and in 10 minutes we kept looking at each other's face and all that. He looked at my face, I looked at his face. He looked away, I looked away, and I didn't know. I mean, obviously, in those circumstances, after about 4 or 5 minutes, you want to say something to each other. Obviously, he wanted to say something, I wanted to. So, मैंने गलती से I said, hello, how does it feel to be free? इतने गाली दिया मुझे, so I said thank you very much. मैं तो वहां से छोड़ के चला गया.
तो इस वक्त तक तो आप थोड़े रिलैक्स हो चुके होंगे क्योंकि हो गया नेगोशिएशन. अब आपको कॉन्फिडेंस आ गया होगा कि लोग सब सेफली रेस्क्यू हो जाएंगे. फिर वो आप मतलब कुछ लोगों को शॉपिंग भी करनी थी इसके बाद, उसकी क्या कहानी है?
ये तो second day shopping. Ladies were bored. I can't blame them. The ladies were bored. And please remember, Air India's dress code for their air hostesses is saris. So
साड़ी मतलब तालिबान के लिए बहुत ही फॉरवर्ड लुकिंग ड्रेस
है. Yes, exactly. Belly button, people coming and showing their belly button was a great
No. बिल्कुल.
Yes. So they wanted to go shopping, and I think they had conveyed their request to the Taliban. Somehow they had they had a vehicle for them to come also from the aircraft to the arrival lounge where the negotiation was going on in that complex. So they must have conveyed it. So Muttawakil came to me and he said he had 4 burqas or hijabs or whatever in his hand. I don't remember now. He gave it to me. I said, these are for the ladies. We have arranged 2 vehicles for them to go to Kandahar market. So I passed it on to the air hostesses or the doctors, and they happily went in the vehicles. No fear, nothing. They went and brought a lot of dried fruits for themselves. That's the only thing they could have shopped. And one of them did tell me that they had got a very good reception in the market. But Pahle Raat, I think I remember one night we were taken when we were coming or somewhere. We went past Mullah Omar's house. Just shown that was Mullah Omar's house. Everything was darkness, street lights or no street lights or anything.
मुझे जानना है ये कौन है, ये जो बहादुर महिला है साइट सीइंग के लिए और मार्केटिंग के लिए जा रही है कंधार में. हिम्मत की दाद देनी पड़ेगी उनको.
बिल्कुल. And then no food, no lunch. They went shopping in the morning and came back by about 2:30. मुझे थोड़ा ये था, why are they? I hope they can come back. And Muttawakil से 2 बार मैंने पूछा. He says, no, don't worry. We have sent some cards. Nothing to worry.
तो आप लोग आए और फिर वो फ्लाइट वापस गई. दोनों मतलब एक ही फ्लाइट गई. दूसरे फ्लाइट का तो कुछ रिपेयर हुआ होगा जो वहां पे.
2 flight went off. That is the flight I came in, that the 52 plus Jaswant Singh's aircraft. उसमें all the 167 people plus the 42 or 52 of us got into the aircraft and came back. We left behind about 10 people. Air India's crew, the crew to pilot the Devi Saran's aircraft back, plus the engineers to check that. The aircraft, I don't know, there was some news report recently that somebody claimed he had piloted it. But from what I recall, J.R.D. Rao, who was the joint managing director of Air India, he stayed back. He had come with us. He stayed back to pilot the aircraft. And he told me that the aircraft was in fantastic condition. It's one of the best aircraft I have piloted.
तो आप वापस आए, फिर कैसे ट्रीट किया गया लोगों ने आपको? काफी लोगों को तो बहुत खुशी हुई होगी.
It had the security in Delhi airport had been breached. There was no security. Families were there to receive. I think there must have been 2,000-3,000 people there to receive people. And there were no passport checks, nothing. Everything had collapsed at the airport. The Taliban could have sent their army also with us, and nobody would have been there. This thing. So they have, no passport checks also, just went off everybody. And then the people were carried on their shoulders from the arrival thing right up to the outside to this thing. They carried me also on the shoulder along with my suitcase and my
satellite
phone. But when I finally kept on telling them, look, I am not a hostage, I went for negotiation. And they went off, some of them.
Yeah.
So I went out on my own. Yeah.
वाह ये तो मतलब बहुत कुछ पता पड़ा कि एक्चुअल नेगोशिएशंस में क्या चीजें होती है। इन सब कॉम्प्लेक्स सिचुएशन में कुछ गलती भी होती है, सही भी होता है, मजाक भी हो जाता है, अनइंटेंडेड, इंटेंडेड। तो ये सब जानना जरूरी रहता है। तो बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया मिस्टर आर्नी, आपने ये सब बताया इसके बारे में। फिर ये जब सब वाकया खत्म हो गया, तो अब आप जब सोचते हैं इस इंस्टेंस के बारे में, तो आपको क्या लगता है, क्या सही हुआ, क्या गलत हुआ?
Abhi, I think all my stories have had a flippant side to it. But yeah, there was definitely a lot of tension and concern usme. Yeah, we did put together a booklet of operating, of what our experiences were, and that was distilled into a operating procedure. But how can you may have a Bible in front of you, but the Bible doesn't work in such situations, Everything collapses. You have to do something for the moment.
बेसिकली हाँ, और बेसिकली आर्नी जी को देख के मतलब वो तो कभी भी मतलब किसी चीज से डरते तो वो है नहीं, मुझे तो कभी ऐसा लगता नहीं उनकी डिक्शनरी में कुछ है ये सब वर्ड तो लेकिन तो इसीलिए खैर वो कर रहे थे जो वो कर रहे थे। तो वो लोगों को सुन के लग रहा होगा कि वो अपना कूल मेंटेन अभी कर रहे हैं, लेकिन वो मुझे तो लगता है कि कैसी भी सिचुएशन होगी वो वैसे ही रहे होंगे वहां पर। तो आज बहुत मजा आया आनी जी, आपने एकदम हम लोग तो ये कहानी सुन रहे हैं किसी ना किसी रूप में 10 साल से, पर आपने हमारे श्रोताओं के साथ भी शेयर किया तो बहुत मजा आया। इस चीज पे काफी लोगों के दिल में आपने जैसे कहा कि जो सीरीज है वो हॉस्टेजेस के इंटरव्यूज वगैरह पे ज्यादा बनी हुई है, तो वो ज्यादा है। और आपने जैसा एक बार बोला भी था कि उन्होंने बहुत ही जोवियल पना दिखाया है, क्योंकि शायद एक स्टॉकहोम सिंड्रोम जो है वो एक रियल चीज है और काफी सहानुभूति बन जाती है हॉस्टेजेस की अपने किडनैपर्स वगैरह के साथ। लेकिन जो बाहर का माहौल है उसको फिल्म मेकर्स ने उतना सीरियस या डीप रिसर्च नहीं किया। शायद उनका इमोशनल एंगल वो दिखाने का शायद ज्यादा रहा होगा, पर शायद आज की बातचीत से लोगों को पता चला होगा कि बाहर क्या चल रहा था और इंडियन एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन इस चीज को कैसे ले रही थी। तो बहुत मजा आया। थैंक यू सो मच।
Thank you very much. Thank you, Kyati. Thank you, Pranay. Thank you, Saurabh. Bye.
Thank you so much.